Hello there, and many thanks for joining us on the program. I am Imonia Marere. On Monday, July 3rd, 2023, the former governor of Zamfara State, Sani Ahmed Yerima, was at the presidential seat of power in Nigeria, the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, to meet with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yerima had before the visit suggested on a radio program that President Tinubu should negotiate with terror gangs, also called bandits, operating in Zamfara State and other parts of the northwest of Nigeria. Yerima said the negotiation he is advocating is similar to what the administration of former President Umar Yar'Adua had when he resorted to negotiating, that is his government negotiating and granting amnesty to militants in the oil-producing Niger Delta region to tackle the problem of the kidnapping of oil workers, which adversely affected Nigeria's oil production at the time. This was the process that gave rise and birth to the amnesty program. Yerima's advocacy has been generating mixed reactions, with many analysts comparing the current rampant terrorism in the Northwest to the Niger Delta militancy years back. Bandits operating primarily in the Northwest and in the North Central of Nigeria have sacked several rural communities, killing, maiming, and abducting thousands of people for huge ransoms. Despite efforts by state governments in the region and the security agencies, both at local and federal levels, the gangs have continued to attack communities, killing and abducting residents and travelers alike. Their activities have also led to the displacement of millions of people. Some concerned Nigerians say Yerima's call for dialogue with bandits cannot end the bloodshed in the Northwest and in the North Central. While citing unsuccessful past attempts by both the federal and state governments, for instance, former Senator Shehu Sani says bandits terrorizing communities across the northern part of the country cannot be persuaded to abandon their criminal ways through dialogue, because bandits are not an armed movement founded for the pursuit of any religious, ethnic, or political causes, but rather for extortion, abductions, and cold-blooded murder of innocent citizens. Shehu Sani also explained that the bandits are not a united group under a single leadership, but operates in clusters and criminal gangs with their main motivation as money. They kill, they abduct for money. So it will be difficult to negotiate with any group that is not together. How then can banditry be eliminated in the country, especially in the north, where it has become a business enterprise? Are there other options or alternatives that can be explored? This is the thrust of our conversation on the program today. And we have joining us in the studio two security analysts who will be telling us how this should be done, or how government can indeed achieve peace in these areas of Nigeria. That will be right after now. We'll get to meet our guest analysts.
Online.
All right, let's get to meet our guest analysts who are right here in the studio. I'm joined from my immediate right by Dr. Ferdinand Ikwang. Dr. Ikwang is a psychology operations specialist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're also joined right here on my left by Ms. Nasara Umar, who is a security specialist. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here. Thank you.
So let me begin with you, Ms. Umar.
Yes.
What do you say, or how do you interpret the recommendation by the former governor of a northwestern state of Nigeria, who says, look, the best way to now tackle this situation that is on ground, that has been on ground for years, is dialogue. Is that, for you, the option or the way out?
Well, first of all, I would like to commend His Excellency President Tinubu, who under Section 130 is the Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria, President and the Commander-in-Chief, for really opening the path of dialogue, to be able to discuss with people so as to enrich himself with the rudiments of the governance with which to culture, to head on with the problems, bedeviling the country. And then Ahmed Sani Yarima, textually and contextually in his personal capacity or as former governor, he has a duty under sections 21, 23 and 24 of the Constitution to really assist by giving ideas or supporting government in its initiatives to bring about these things. Then when you look at the issue of security, even in the inaugural address of the president, he said is going to be given a very, very serious prominence. He will do the best he can to contain the security situation. And he has no option, because under Section 14, subsection 2, it is clearly stated there that the primary responsibility of governance is the security and welfare of the citizenry. And this issue of banditry in the Northwest has developed a hyper monster in such a way that it has become so difficult to be contained. I will not agree with His Excellency Senator Ahmed Yarima on the issue of dialogue with the banditry, because one, previous attempts, we know how they ended up. There were previous attempts, there were previous efforts, but you cannot just solve problem by just dialoguing with the bandits. You have to first of all analyze those causation factors. For example, if in Zamfara state now there is no democratic value of Section 7 of the Constitution that talks about autonomy of local government operations. By the time you see a tier of governance has already been emasculated by the governor, in such a situation whereby you have a vacuum, that vacuum is naturally going to be filled up with adolescents, is going to be filled up with all sorts of insecurity shenanigans. Call them banditry, call them whatever, is going to be filled up. There is virtually no existence of local government structure as far as northwestern side states of the country is concerned, because of this paradoxical operation of joint account by the state governors, in such a way that so many local government headquarters, when you go, they have ended up to be a shelter ground for cattle and other animals. So when you remove that one, you are leaving the grassroots at the mercy of whatever will come and fill up the vacuum. That is one. Secondly, there is failure on the side of the state to really take care of all the reports that have been assembled. Series of reports have been assembled on this banditry, hundreds in number. I have not seen any white paper up to this moment. I have not seen one person penalized as a result of this banditry, despite the fact that series of attempts, a series of arrests have been made of either the bandits themselves or their collaborators or their informants and the rest. I have not seen justice really on the side of those, the captives, being done by the government. The third factor I would like us to consider is the factor of the porosity of the area, the northwestern states, with countries, especially Niger Republic, which is a confluence of Maghreb states and the Sahel region, and indeed the other states that are facing similar problems of banditry within the West African sub-region. And the failure and inefficiency on the side of the security operatives, the immigration officials, to block all the illegal immigration points into the decision is another decision. Another problem has to do with the strategy of the security deployment there. The strategy there in a situation whereby you are only waiting for them to act, and then when they come out, then you now go into defensive. it is a very wrong strategy. There is no reason why those bushes that are serving as shelters for these criminals cannot be gotten into. Already when you take the provision of sections 1 to 10 of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2010 of Nigeria, these are clear criminals. When somebody is calling them bandits or whatever, these are terminologies I do not agree with. They are clear criminals and they are clearly terrorists, and they should be dealt with accordingly so that they will be shown that really we have the might of the states in our own side. Another factor has to do with the inefficiency and inferiority of the weaponry. The weaponry with which our security operatives, go about these things have not been sophisticated enough to contain the enormity of the situation. We have seen a situation whereby I remember when former President Buhari shut operations of governance in Abuja, and all the governors, ministers, and the rest converge in Kaduna, and they launch drones. They launch purchase of drones. They declare that henceforth there will not be any incidents of, even if it's a rat, the drones have the capacity to be able to detect and see and act decisively. We have not seen the efficacy of those drones. We have not seen the efficacy of the Tocanos. We have not seen the efficacy of the quantum of money, the budgetary spendings that have been done. There are allegations really regarding the corrupt aspect of the spending, which brought about the necessity of the need to really sanitize the military operations there by going into probes. We have not seen the result of that up to this moment. Another humongous problem has to do with the interagency rivalry. When you take sections 153 of the Constitution, you have the National Defense Council, the National Security Council, the Nigerian Police Council, but we have all of them there provided in section 153, K, L, and M respectively, and we have under section 214 to 216 the responsibility of internal security, domicile on the police. How many number of policemen do we have? We don't have up to 500,000 policemen in the country. With a population of 270 million, what magic can they play if half of them are there safeguarding the lives and properties of the VIPs, the honorables, their excellencies, their royal highnesses, and what after you? The remaining half part of them are there safeguarding interests of multinational corporations, banks, mighty government enterprises, and the rest. So you'll discover that a very minute number of the police personnel are there to really see the wonders they can bring to contain the security situation. Even if you take the provision of section 216 to 219 that says where the police cannot be able to handle the matter optimally, they should seek the support of other security agencies. The totality of them are not up to 1 million combined with the police and the rest. So what magic can they do? What efforts have they been done? There were incidents of corruption when the president said that 10,000 policemen, to even employ them, interagency rivalry and squabbles thwarted the efforts to even recruit the talkless of the. So we need numerical number of the police and the other military and other paramilitary personnel to match the corresponding geometrical number of the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And as well, we need the security, the citizenry to be trained so that they will be able to really put stake in the security of their immediate environment. Otherwise, we will not get things right.
We'll get back to a lot of the issues that you have thrown up, yes. What you regard as factors that may militate against having to dialogue or not to dialogue with these bandits. But let me come to you, Dr. Ikwang. This is an issue that has been put on the table, not for the first time, but several times before. And like you said, there were previous attempts at dialogue with this group of criminals as they have become. But now Yerima is putting it back on the front burner. Do you think that this is the right direction to go?
Thank you again. I think it's the right direction to go. The word dialogue is part of what we call engagement. When you say engagement, that includes the kinetic and non-kinetic. Within the non-kinetic, you have the dialogue. But for me, he also mentioned President Yaradua. What has been missing in the way we tackle these issues has been somebody being tasked with the issue. If you notice how President Yaradua approached that particular issue, I was in the thick of it. I designed this program. The first committee that was manned by General Godwin Abe, I was the one that designed their terms of reference before the amnesty was even announced. And the engagements now started with the militants, while the task force headed by General Bello was doing his job in the Niger Delta. We were doing the job of engaging those boys behind the scenes. And at the end of the day, peace was achieved. Now, I was also involved in the Boko Haram section, and we were able to bring in a lot of commanders who laid down their arms. Now, when you want to do something like this, you have to task somebody to do it. If you say the army should go and do it, you're giving them a blanket order. Somebody has to be tasked to do the job. And I can tell you all those who were tasked to do these particular jobs that came out to be successful. Now, there are 3 agencies in Nigeria, if we have to prefer solutions to it. The first one is the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution. The second one is the presidency itself. The third one is the Office of the National Security Advisor. There has to be a national integration department, an integration department that handles not just the bandits. There's a lot of conflicts in Nigeria. Conflicts that are emerging, conflicts that have been over, but they are still, the embers are still there to come up again. And the banditry, the kidnapping, the IPOB at the other end, they are all conflicts. Now, a group of people need to be tasked to do this job. The Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution can do the research on the ground and tell us why this is happening. The president should be able to task somebody. We had told the former president before Yaradua to set up a committee like that, a presidential committee on national integration, with the powers to be able to approach any conflict situation and quell the issues before they arise. The Office of the National Security Advisor can set up a department headed by somebody, a national coordinator. I was national coordinator de-radicalization in the Office of the National Security Advisor. And that gave me the leeway to be able to engage these terrorists in the field. And the election that brought President Yaradua, that election, most people didn't notice that 3 weeks within that period, there was no fight. People had to go down to negotiate, engage, and ask people to stand down until the election is over. Now, these things are happening in the background. Within FCT here, there was a director of service, a DSS director, FCT. He quelled more problems in the FCT than any other group, because before something happens, he's already there talking to the people. If you try it, I'm coming after you. You have not done anything now, but if you do it, I'm coming. And he did that across board. So these things are already happening in the background. Now we need to codify it. We need to have somebody tasked so that when something happens, they can send the person in and his group. So I said again, the Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution can set up that kind of organization, a body that everybody will key into whenever there is a problem in the country. We call upon them to go and deal with it. The president can set up a committee under the presidency that can do the same jobs. Thirdly, the NSA can appoint a national coordinator to handle these particular issues. Now, engagement first. When the engagement does not work, you move back and come in with the kinetic. It's not like you're in your house, your child starts to misbehave, you say, okay, kill him. It doesn't work that way. You have to call people in, sit down and ask the question, what is the issue? And if there are other reports that are already on ground, you read those reports and then engage the people. Like I said, engagement is not about dialogue. Engagement could be kinetic, not kinetic before the dialogue comes in. So if, like what we did with the Niger Delta, we went in to talk. While we were talking, the task force headed by General Bello was doing his job. The two were going in the same way. This one was coming at this point, this one was coming at this point. And then at the end of the day, they agreed to see the president. And The president asked General Bello to stand down. They came in and had that discussion with President Yaradua and went back, and then they came back with their own demands. And that was negotiated, and we had a negotiated settlement. At the end of the day, the Niger Delta is calm. So we can do the same thing to all these myriads of conflicts that we have.
I said that, Dr. Ekwang, like Senator Shehu has argued, and he too has put forward, that in the case of the Niger Delta, you had known faces. There were people you could dialogue with. There were individuals, there were leaders of these various groups that you could engage with. In the case of these bandits, those they are also called terrorists in the Northwest particularly, and in the North Central geopolitical zone. Not very many of them are known. These are very disparate groups, criminal gangs that hit and get away. They don't even make statements. They just go on and carry on destruction of lives and property, abductions for ransom, and all of that. Who do you then engage with in that kind of situation? How do you then engage in that kind of situation?
I need to go back. We've engaged with the bandits, and we've been able to get some of them to go back home. So that's not even an issue that I'll look at. Everybody has a reason why they're out there doing what they're doing. There's no one of them that doesn't have a reason. And nobody can tell me that those bandits are people that we cannot engage. First time I met President Yaradua, he said the Niger Delta people are ghosts. They come in, they take action, and they disappear. I said, Your Excellency, I have never seen a ghost throw bomb before in my life. And I don't think it is happening. Those people have human faces. And we're able to find them. Now, I can tell you this. Go backwards, read the reports. There are several reports about these people. How did they become bandits? Most of them were very rich Fulani boys who had cows. And people came and rustled their cows. And the government of the day, if we must say it, told them, don't worry yourself, we will take care of you. And they did not take care of those boys who were very rich Fulani boys now, had to leave. Some part of them, not talking about all of them. So if you say we cannot find them, that's not true. We can find them. And the essence of national security is economy. The exit point, whatever we do and we call security, is to create peace. The peaceful environment would allow economy to thrive. Now, what is the reason why they are bandits? If somebody says it is money, money to do what? It's economy. And if you can sit down with them, have a discussion, and find out what are the issues on ground. I'm just giving you one of the issues because I've read some of the reports. And I've seen that these things, as I'm talking, let nobody think that it's about me sitting down and capitulating to anybody. When the government is negotiating, the government negotiates from a position of power. You go in with non-kinetic first, and if the boys say they are not going to talk, you move out and let the military do what needs to be done. But if we keep doing what we have been doing for the past 15 years in that particular region, how do you do the same thing over and over and over again and think that it will succeed? It will not. I am not talking about dialogue. I am using the word engagement. Because when you say dialogue, dialogue means that you have to sit down to negotiate with people. Sometimes we don't negotiate. Sometimes we come in there and say, look, we need you to come out of that place. If we find you there again, we are going to level the place. And I can tell you there are so many success stories. I know one who left that life and is now driving, gets allocation to drive cement. He has cement trucks and he drives them. He left the life. So it is not that it cannot be done. It is that it has to be an organized entry point. President Yaradua appointed General Godwin Abe to lead the committee. And then he appointed Air Vice Marshal Lucky Ochuko Ararile, retired now, who was the one who went in to negotiate. He was the face of the president negotiating with the militants. But there were people behind. During the former NSA brought in non-kinetic engagement too. There were people who will go down to negotiate with these people. We negotiated from Chad to Niger Republic to Jordan to all over the place. We went, we sat down, we negotiated. But we engaged. But the thing was that the government is negotiating from a position of power. We will come for you. We can find you in whichever country you go to. So what do you think? How do you think we cannot find you? And they will tell you, look, I'm ready to capitulate. Take my family, do this, and I will come in. And you take them in, they will go through the process because the Anti-Terrorism Act is very clear. They will go through the process, go and be jailed and put in prison. Most of them in Kuje, I managed them. We had them in the Kuje prisons. I was the one that, our team managed them in Kuje prison. So we arrested them, we brought them in. But the point there is, each of these bandits or terrorists or militants or whoever you take out of circulation, you save the lives of those that they would have killed if they were in circulation. So that is my driving point. Each magazine contains 30 bullets. Guns don't kill people, bullets do. If a gun does not have bullets in it, it is a club. You use it to hit somebody. But when it has bullets, it's able to kill. Each person you take out of circulation, assume that you've saved the lives of 30 people. So everybody we take out, we let them go through the justice system and they will go to jail. They know they will go to jail. But the point is, you are not going to do what you were doing before. And there are those who join these things and they are there for logistics, intelligence reason, so you approach them differently.
The prospects of going to jail, won't that scare some of these people from wanting to put themselves up for that kind of process?
I have sat with people across the table and we were very clear. You're going to come in and you go through the justice system and let's plead for leniency that the judge will not condemn you to death, but that you will be jailed. And you see, some of them will come out. Some will decide to run. But the problem with running is that you have been warned. And there is this engagement technique that we use. We call it making them general without troops. When your general says you will not capitulate, we go after the troops. So if you have 300 men and we take out 280 from under you, you have nobody else to fight with you. You will capitulate at some point. There is one or two ways you will go. Either you're coming in and you're going through the process of demobilization, disarmament, demobilization, and then you go through the justice system, or they will carry you out. One way or the other, you have to come out of there.
Mr. Omar,
Yes.
What's your response to that kind of situation?
Well, first of all, it is paradoxical for you to bring all these type of proposals because, one, during the period of Umar Musa Adwa that he kept hammering on, there were no incidents of this banditry in the Northwest. We are talking about Northwest. Two, there is a fundamental difference between the banditry in the Northwest and even the Niger Delta area. Niger Delta militants were principally attacking government facilities, government architecture. These ones are attacking civil populace. Number three, Niger Delta, you have their heads, their leaders known. These ones are not known. Number four, Boko Haram and other these things in the Northeast, they have a trademark, a name, a body, a group. They even they pronounce their allegiance to some international bodies. These ones are not like that. These ones, greater number of them are immigrants from abroad. If you go close to them, you will discover that they are Bambara-speaking people, mainly from Burkina Faso, from Mali, from Senegal, those areas. You will see them very tall with woven hair.
They are not Nigerians.
They are not Nigerians. I am principally a classical, to give example, because I come from an area whereby it is their own territory virtually. 47 communities, I am a prince from Faskari area, which is a no-go area now. 47 communities have been dispersed there. If you go speaking Fulani to them, most of them don't even understand the Fulani you are talking about. or even if they understand, they are just speaking it in form of imitation. You will see them with very long distance. Where seeing them, you know they are not Nigerians. Where you see Nigerians is where they recruit some local nationals. Because behind every activity of criminality, there is some element of conspiracy with the locals. So by the time they now come about, you will see them in some of our communities moving freely like ordinary citizens with their AK-47s hang on their distance inside towns and the rest. Therefore, the approach you have given to the Niger Delta issue must be diametrically different from this one. Secondly, you can't apply theoretical suggestions because these are not educated people. They are not educated people. Number three, these bushes that you are talking about, even their domains within the bushes are known to the authorities. Because there were periods when some governors moved even down to the den to negotiate these so-called peace agreements with them. And they violated. There was a time one of the ringleaders of the Disin even announced to the world, I will be Tabon searching Fulani, so date. Inviting the whole world. They went and did it and dispatched successfully. Without any security, this thing going there to either disrupt or arrest anybody.
Probably that was part of the engagement process that Dr. Ekwang was talking about.
When there is a ceremony in your house, the dog says, let me see it on the ground. In other words, let me see the bones. The interest of the common man, because under Section 14 subsection 1, sovereignty belongs to the people. The interest of the generality of our people there is to see the possibility of how they can put their two eyes closed and sleep. Nobody in our area can get to his farm. You cannot get to the farm to farm. You know, animals are having more liberty than human beings there. Because a dog or a donkey can move around a shrub area freely. But here you cannot. You will be hunted. And demand for unimaginable millions of ransom will come on board. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, we have passed the level of saying whether there will be dialogue or not. If the government wants to take decisive action on this, increase the weaponry, the numerical strength, the training, the sophistication of our security enforcement agencies. 2, give them marching order to get into the bush and comb out the bushes.
And you believe that that process can completely wipe out these bandits?
Another thing is that, I'm coming. Get into the bush, comb out the bushes. By the time you finish combing out the bushes, you understand. Use the drones if we have them. Spray on the bushes. There is a particular chemical you spray on the bushes. Any living thing there will be dead, will be in coma for a period of 48 hours, 72 hours, or whatever number of hours. Then the ground troops will now move, bring out any human being they see there, so that by the time you recover from the they will be able to see the captives and the captors separately. But even if you do that, the fundamental problem is that the architecture of judicial enforcement must be seen to be practically up and doing.
Isn't there a challenge with that prescription?
Yes.
That, for instance, some of these bandits, as you yourself have admitted, live amongst the local people.
Yes.
So when you now spray those areas, or you now deploy drones to attack them in those areas, you'll be killing both the perpetrators and the victims.
When you displace the king from his palace, you have ended the throne. That is the fundamental achievement. And then those bushes can now be transformed into agricultural farmlands. Invite foreign agricultural commercial investors to come and grade down all the bushes, establish concrete streets, concrete roads linking one state or the other, put street lights, solar street lights, establish industries there that will be taking care of the agricultural products that will come up there. turn it into agricultural disease, so that at the end of it, number one, the clothes that is sheltering them will not be there. Number two, you will be able to take care of giving people security because you have dislodged them. Number three, you will be able to see establishment of agricultural expansion there. Number four, you will be able to cure another enemy, hunger. Number five, you will be able to get our young men engaged in agricultural production there. The last one, you will be able to get foreign exchange from the bumper surplus of the agricultural products you will get from the bushes. The bushes are 9 in number, we all know them. They are 9 in number.
Is that in one state or in the entire?
In the entire
north, west, and north central.
The evolution of these things were that these areas that you are talking about were areas discovered in 1962 to 64 to be richly endowed with solid and liquid minerals. The leaders then, Sir Ahmadu Bello and the rest of them, said, let's bury them and leave them for future generations. They brought about all those mighty trees, mahogany, bamboo, neem tree, and the rest from India, Pakistan, and other countries, and planted them there. Those are the trees that have germinated into thick bush there and serving as shelter for these criminals. And there are so many people there, you go there, you as a citizen of Nigeria, you cannot move there. But a foreigner can go there and move freely because of the activities of mining there going on there.
Okay, well, let's take a short break. When we return from this break, Dr. Ekwang, we'll be looking at the involvement of foreigners and how that could, in one way or the other, be a clog in the engagement process. Let's take the break.
On the go.
Thank you so much for staying with us, people. Politics and power. We're looking at the recommendation by a former governor of Zamfara State, Ahmed Sani Yerima, that the current government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, should consider the process of dialogue, or what Dr. Ekwang describes as engagement with bandits and terrorists who are operating in certain parts of the country, particularly in the northwest and in the north-central regions of Nigeria. Dr. Ekwang, now, it's been established one way or the other that there are very many of these bandits who are not Nigerians, who may have infiltrated the country from other West African countries. Now, the problem is, how do you engage with persons of that status? If they are Nigerians, yes, it might be easy to identify them and engage with them. But how do you engage with foreigners? And foreigners who do not owe any allegiance to the Nigerian nation or to the government?
Well, if to answer that question directly, the conventions does say that if you find a foreigner who comes into your country to foment this kind of trouble, you don't engage him, you deal with him at once. So that's a different thing entirely.
So that's the kinetic aspect.
That's kinetic straight away. There is nothing to engagement will be kinetic, not non-kinetic. So for me, the reason why we advocate for engagements is this. When you go in, that is when you have this information. The intelligence you gather will be able to guide the military on what to do. Most of the time, when we go in, we take words and we put in our military, they go there, they meet superior firepower. The way to engage is that when you go in, you have your intelligence operatives on ground, maybe 3-4 weeks before the engagement. When you go in, you already know who you're talking to. You already know what you're saying, where they come from, who they are. So if after doing your assessment behind the scenes, you find out that these are foreigners, why would you even spend time to have a discussion with them? That's not how it works. Engagement allows you to put in your operatives on the ground, first of all, to do the assessment. And once you have the report, that is the report now used to enter in to do what needs to be done. Now, if somebody tells me, let us get a battalion of soldiers to go and do a job, and after we do the recce inside and we come in and come out with the fact that we only need a unit of soldiers to go in there. So I don't need the battalion. I can do the job with a unit of soldiers. And what kind of soldiers do I need? If I know that the terrain that we are supposed to go and meet these people is not something that soldiers can go in, we use the Air Force. So engagement, that's why I said, let us not use the word dialogue, because dialogue is inside engagement. Engagement could be kinetic, non-kinetic, or negotiation. Inside negotiation, you have dialogue. Inside negotiation, you also have warning. Like I said, sometimes we walk in there and say, listen, we have found you. You didn't find us. The way we found you now, we can find you again. And we want you out of this place. You're given 48 hours to vacate this vicinity. Move out. And of course, you put in your people to put surveillance in the area so you know where they are going into, where they are not going into, whether they are moving, they are not moving, and you know how to attack. Now, I know the pains. I have lost colleagues. I have lost my own men. I know the pains in this whole thing. But we cannot be looking at the things that will make it painful and forget those who are suffering on the ground. See, whenever we are talking about engagement, we bring in the soldiers, we bring in the army and all of that. Do you know what it feels like? I learned this from somebody who has lived in that location. He asked me, do you know what it feels like to sleep with your wife and children in a room knowing that you might not wake up in the morning, but there is no war in your zone? Somebody asked me that question, and I had to think about it. So I'm not worried about who the bandits are. I'm worried about the people who are on ground. Why should we be talking about dialogue now, engagements now, when we ought to have dealt with this matter a long time ago?
But like you said, there have been series of efforts at engagement, at dialogue. Agreements signed here and there, maybe by state governments, essentially, and not by the federal authority.
Exactly.
But that didn't work out.
That's
So
what I said in the first instance. Somebody needs to be tasked. Somebody needs to be named by either the National Security Advisor or the President, so that when something like this happens, you will call that person. If there is armed robbery case, and you should remember when Anini was running riots around everybody. President Babangida saw, Inspector General Etimiyang then, and said, my friend, where is Anini? It was carried in the papers. My friend, where is Anini? Why didn't he ask the Chief of Army Staff? Because he knows that it is the police duty to find that man. Now, if you ask anybody that lives around that banditry area and said, if bandits attack this area, who are you calling? Most of them will not know where to go. But if the president tasked somebody and said, it is your job today to ensure that there is no banditry in that zone, whether he is a civilian or whether he is a military man serving or retired, said you are in charge of ensuring that this does not happen. Give him what he needs to do his job. So that even the mothers, I said we had calls from mothers who were telling us where their children was hiding in the Northeast. They will call us and say, please don't kill my son. No, he is one of these people, but he is here. They want them alive, even if they are incarcerated, but they want them alive. You will get people from the local populace who will be feeding information to that person who is in charge. But when you say military, as soldiers, go in and do a job, the army is a tool. You only apply them when you need them. The Air Force is a tool. You only apply them when you need them. The Navy is a tool. You only apply them when you need them. You cannot call the Navy to go into a forest. You know who to call. But before you do this, you need to gather enough intelligence through engagements on the ground. Before you get to the point of dialogue, you have to go in first and consider whether non-kinetic or kinetic is going to work in this situation. And please, if somebody tells me they found a foreigner somewhere, don't ask me to negotiate with anybody. Because this is not your country. You are a nuisance
no stake here.
No, you are a persona non grata in another person. You are a persona non grata.
Yes.
That's how it is.
Well, Mr. Omar, we have just had new service chiefs. What
Yes.
are your expectations of the service chiefs as far as this issue is concerned? What would you want to see them do?
Well, leadership is all about ability to take responsibility. If you are somebody embedded with pity, or you are somebody that can easily be, what do you call it, too subservient, you cannot be a leader. You must be prepared to step on toes if you want to succeed. Dust out all the reports. There is no need for setting up any committee now. We have abundance of committee reports that have been set up. The political willingness to implement the recommendations is the missing link. That is one. Number two, concentrate attention in increasing the sophistication of the weaponry with which your personnel works. Increase the personnel strength of your various commanding forces. Number three, terrorism is international in dimension. If you think you can do it within the domestic shores of Nigeria alone, you are not going to succeed. Seek for foreign collaboration. Think for international support. I don't need to tell you those countries where the genuine support will come, different from the traditional countries you are aligning our own security architecture with. Apart from that, too, as much as possible, link up whatever you are doing with trying to establish, if possible, see to the president to alter section 230 to 310 to 304 of the Constitution that talks about the judicial architecture by setting up a special anti-terrorism and miscellaneous offenses court. Let it be a court of summary trial. Let it be a court that has judges that are people of highest pedigree, statesmen of highest distinction, that are prepared to sacrifice themselves for the interests of national unity, national cohesion, peace, and stability. Get those people, and it should be, like I said, court of summary trial. Maximum period should be 6 weeks, within which that court should try and then dispense justice. There is no point some people 15 years, 10 years, 12 years, you know, the case is going in a snail speed. Justice delayed is justice denied. Let us have a special court that will immediately you arrest, you know, publicize the trial, and then let us see conviction, so that the conviction will serve as deterrent to those that are interested in this type of things. And then the president should be bold enough to really bankroll the establishment of local government as a bona fide tier of governance. We need local government as an independent tier. Otherwise, when you remove it, you are allowing hooliganism to fill up that vacuum, which is really unfortunate. It's really giving fertile ground for a lot of local criminalities. And then there should be symbiotic coordination. When Section 14, subsection 2 says that the primary responsibility of governance is security and welfare of the citizenry, it is calling on the federal, the state, and the local government, and office of the secretary to the government of the federation, in symbiotic coordination with the office of the national security advisor, should really work out synergy and harmony with all the state governors, all the traditional rulers, all the local government, and all the stakeholders in these areas, so that you will be able to have, you know, possibility of a solution to this problem.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omar. Dr. Ekwang, your last word here.
I'll still harp on the fact that the president needs to do something. The NSA also needs to do something within the department. It's been done before. And the Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution, they have a lot of documents. And if you need information on all the conflicts in this country, you can find it with them. You can find the reports anywhere you need it, and then come together, name somebody, and task the person to go in and solve these problems once and for all. It can be done. It's not like it cannot be done. It can be done. And I am grateful that all the persons who have been tasked, from the NSA down, they are all enforcers. They are not tabletop generals. They are all enforcers. The NSA himself was an enforcer in EFCC, so he knows how to go after people. So that is why I said they are all enforcers. The IGP, that is his job. He's very good at going after people, all of them. So now we have enforcers who are in charge of our architectures. let them go out and do what needs to be done. First of all, they need to understand what is happening on the ground, and with that, they can hit the ground running.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Ferdinand Ikwang is a psychology operations specialist, and Mr. Menasara Umar is a security expert. Both of them have joined us to look at the proposal that government should think of having some kind of dialogue with bandits, particularly in the northwest and in the north-central parts of Nigeria. Well, we seem agreed, as it were, although with a few differences here and there, that there is a need for engagement. Engagement, Dr. Ikwang says, is in a much broader sense than dialogue. Dialogue is part of the engagement process. So engagement could be both kinetic, as Mr. Umar advocates or says, and non-kinetic, as Dr. Ikwang has also put forward. Well, a combination of both may just be what we require to restore peace to the troubled areas of the Northwest and North Central, so that development, genuine development, can actually take place. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's our program for today. Let's see again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.